এমন দিন কি হবে মা তারা, যবে তারা 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 বলে তারা বেয়ে পড়বে ধারা, তারা 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 বলে তারা বেয়ে পড়বে ধারা। এমন দিন কি হবে মা তারা, এমন দিন কি হবে মা তারা, যবে তারা 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 বলে তারা বেয়ে পড়বে ধারা, তারা 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 বলে তারা বেয়ে পড়বে ধারা। এমন দিন কি হবে মা তারা, এমন দিন কি হবে মা তারা। হৃদি পদ্ম উঠবে ফুটে, মনের আধার যাবে টুটে, হৃদি পদ্ম উঠবে ফুটে, মনের আধার যাবে টুটে, তখন ধরা তলে পড়ব লুটে, তারা বলে হব সারা, ধরা তলে পড়ব লুটে, তারা বলে হব সারা। এমন দিন কি হবে মা তারা, এমন দিন কি হবে মা তারা, যবে তারা 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 বলে তারা বেয়ে পড়বে ধারা, তারা 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 বলে তারা বেয়ে পড়বে ধারা। এমন দিন হবে মা তারা।
Jai Guru, pranams, a very warm welcome to Nayaswamis Devi ji and Jyotish ji. It's a blessing and honor and a privilege to have you with us this morning. And I know that Guru Bhais in Kolkata, Guru Bhais across the world are feeling this blessing in their hearts today. And today this is one of a series of conversations with Jyotish ji and Devi ji that they've been doing with centers across India. And I don't think they need any introduction, but because we are going live on Facebook and there may be new members in the audience, that they are the worldwide directors of Ananda, and they've been with Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda and direct disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda Gurudev, for since the beginning of Ananda's foundation. And we are here with our hearts open to receive the light that you embody, Jyotish ji and Devi ji. And our topic today is East and West working together. We know this is Babaji's wish and the wish of our gurus, that this light brings together the different poles of the world in a spiritual coming together. With that, I would request you to lead us into a prayer and start today's session.
I'll lead a prayer in just a moment, but even the format is a meeting of East and West. So we get to, Devi ji and I get to visit India, Kolkata and many other places in India, and you all get to visit our living room. So this is where we live, and now you're visiting us. So that's a joining of East and West allowed by Dwapara Yuga technology. I'll lead us in a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda ji, great saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. O beloved Lord, help us look past superficial differences and see that we are all one, all beams of thy great light, all children of thy great consciousness. Help us unite with each other, whether in East or West. And most of all, help us unite with thee, who are one and eternal. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So you're welcome. Maybe Devi and I, the topic tonight is the joining together of East and West. And maybe Devi and I will each talk just very briefly. And then the format of these satsangs is primarily to be able to get together and just share the path with each other, share questions, share answers, share friendship and joy. So the joining together of East and West, first of all, in our souls, we're neither East nor West. We're universal children. And when we talk about being from India or being from the United States or from the East or from the West, really all we're talking about is one little incarnation out of tens of thousands of incarnations. And so in this sense, even though Daviji and I and several others here were born in the West, we may be more Indian because of recent incarnations in India than many people who are born in India and have recent incarnations in the West. And so who's Eastern and who's Western? You can't really say except by pointing out very superficial differences. But many of you are from Kolkata, others of you from different areas around India, Delhi and Pune and Bangalore. And so all of those places around India, you're actually in some ways, if you live in an urban environment, your lifestyle is probably closer to the lifestyle of somebody who lives in Chicago or New York or Los Angeles than it is similar to the lifestyle of somebody who lives in a little village in India and mainly works on the land. So how do you divide what lifestyle is? Similarly, because we're all devotees, our consciousness is probably more similar to one another. All of the people on the screens here, our consciousness is probably more similar to each other than you might be to the neighbor living next door to you. And so where are these differences? They're really only possible if we remain on the most superficial level. And so yoga and the spiritual path is meant to get us off of that superficial level. It's meant to take us past just this incarnation into our soul nature, which is one with God, one with the light, and one with eternal realities. And so while we can talk and will talk, because it's an interesting subject, about East and West coming together, it was one of Yogananda's missions in this lifetime, one of the missions of all of our masters, to help with that joining. And so we'll talk about that. But on the deepest levels, there is no essential difference between any of us, nor is there essential difference between a man and a woman. We're all one child of God, And these surface differences are important primarily as long as our consciousness remains on the surface. But as it goes deeper, then those superficial differences begin to take on less and less importance until finally they just frankly seem kind of silly. But I will say that Devi and I'm sure because of recent incarnations, feel more at home than when we're in India than we do when we're in America, even though culturally we're used to things in America. But in our heart and in our, I don't know, aura and vibration, we feel more at home in India than we do in America.
So I'll share a little bit now as well. First of all, it's so lovely to be with you all and to see our friends, so many beautiful faces. And I mean this very sincerely. Whenever we have a satsang or a meeting with our friends in India, some very deep part of our soul is nurtured. And it's just very, very gratifying. And I'm going to make a little joke on a friend of mine who I saw was watching Kanta from Gargan. I was looking at the names that came up and I thought, oh, that's a very long Indian last name, Kanta Ifono Kanta. And I thought, oh, that's a long name. And then I realized it was Kanta's iPhone. So that's East and West coming together. So I want to share with you something, a gift that Swami gave us some years ago to break down barriers between East and West. Swami has written a play called The Jewel in the Lotus. It's a beautiful play that takes place in India 200 years in the future. Master said he would reincarnate in the Himalayas 200 years after he left the body, which is something to look forward to if we happen to be around. But so we were performing this play in San Francisco. Swami was in it, Jyotish and I were both in it as well. And all the characters are in it are Indian. So we were dressed up in Indian clothes. I had a sari on, Jyotish had a kurta, and Swami also had Indian clothes on. And we had, stage makeup because it was on a stage. And I had a lot of Indian jewelry on, which I don't usually wear. But the play went very nicely. And then Swami said, let's go out to dinner. He had a very favorite Indian restaurant in San Francisco called Gaylord's. And we said, oh, that would be, it was late by this time, but we said, oh, Swami, that would be lovely. Let's change our clothes. And, he said, oh, no, let's just go. And so there we were, and I had a sari and lots of jewelry. And anyway, and we went into the Indian restaurant, and I think Swami was teaching us something because we had been in a play set in India, dressed as Indians. We walked into that restaurant, which was filled with Westerners, and they all looked like foreigners to me. I thought, oh, how strange. Their skin is so light. Looks kind of not healthy. And I just felt like he took us back to an Indian incarnation. It was the most delightful evening. And then we got home, and that kind of veil came back. And oh, yes, we're Westerners too. But for that hour or two, we weren't Westerners. And it was a thrilling feeling, just thrilling. And I think for me, when we talk about differences between East and West, I really feel that the differences are that which is similar is really common to all humanity, but that which is different is a spark of divine that God planted in us that we are meant to share with each other. That's why we love being with Indians, because there is a sensitivity, a warmth, an openness, subtlety that you just do not find in the West. It's just not here. We're too young of a culture. But, and I think, I don't know if the same is true for Indians, but maybe there's a logical way of doing things, a practical underlying understanding that maybe that's fulfilling for you to be around. I hope you get something from being around Westerners, but the point being that which seems to make us different is not something that separates us, but it's the gift we have to give to each other. And in that way, it's this beautiful coming together of God's children, just like, you know, I maybe a little brother and sister, they're different, but they have something to teach each other. And that's what it feels like to me, that we have something to share. That's a beautiful aspect of each one of us. And I'm so grateful beyond anything. I really, for Jyotish and me, the greatest gift of our spiritual life after Swamiji Master is to serve with all of you and to develop friendships with all of you, because it's so rewarding for our souls. And we were talking earlier today that, you know, we haven't been able to travel at all because of the pandemic. And yet, as much as we miss not being able to come to India, it's been very important for us to be in America during this time, because many things have come up and decisions and how do we move forward. And I think if we weren't here now, it would have been a burden on a lot of people. So it's right that we couldn't come, even though we miss it ourselves personally. So I think maybe we just open up for questions now, but just remember, it's all East and West. It's all part of a divine plan. And, you know, many of the questions that DT already submitted to us were, you know, is it possible to come together? The differences seem so great. Always remember there's a bigger picture. We're just little bitty, we see a little moment in time, but the great masters, they see eternal patterns of yugas, that hundreds of thousands of years. And the separation of East and West was a divine decree some thousands of years ago, so that the East could develop spiritual depth and the West could develop practicality. But now the masters that guide human evolution are saying, now each side has gone as far as is important in their own particular orientation. Now it's time to share that. And so it isn't that we have to work at it. There's a natural hunger for sensitive souls, Westerners to draw from the East, Indians to draw from the West, because we feel it completes the circuit. So it's all part of a beautiful, beautiful divine plan. And those of us who are disciples of our great masters, Babaji, Lahiri Sri Teshwar, Yoganandaji, we're just little sparks of their light, just little sparks of their mission to uplift human consciousness by coming together. So as much as we enjoy being together, I'm always aware on some level, it's not just for us. It's to lead humanity forward into a higher age. So now, DT, if you want to begin having conversation, we've talked enough.
Absolutely. And it's like, you know, when a painting is being made, different elements of that canvas are placed one by one, and then gradually the whole composition comes together, and we see Jyotishji's painting right on the wall behind you, and we know so beautifully Jyotishji expresses himself in this creative way. So this seems to be the painting of the masters, that they have planted different strengths in different parts of the globe, and finally there has to be a coming together to make the final composition emerge. And exactly as we were preparing for this conversation, these are the thoughts that crossed our minds, that when the masters said East and West, it seems more and more that it is not so much a geographical East and West. It seems East represents that which is a spiritual realm, and the West represents that which is more of a physical manifestation of Divine Mother in the material realm. And they, so for us, many Bengalis and many Indians, I can speak for myself, and I know I represent thousands, if not more, that Master came to us through you. And, in that sense, this light of the East came through you, and you are geographically placed in the West. So even in Bengal, you have made many Bengalis the acquaintance of Yogananda ji and the line of Bengali gurus. So the boundaries, the differences are really dissolving. So I'll just gradually go into some of the questions we have received. The first one, I would like to quote this. Babaji said to Yukteswar Giriji in the Kumbh Mela in January 1894, he said, East and West must establish a golden middle path of activity and spirituality combined. So our first question is that, you are embodying this coming together. You are, channeling this energy irrespective of where devotees are. So please tell us, what are some of the keys that will help bringing the different cultures together in harmony, in cooperation, that we may transcend our superficial, differences, so to speak, and that we feel united in this light, and that you are singing this song of spirit, ever so beautifully from the heart center. So we would like to receive that, so please tell us about that a little bit.
Well, first of all, we have to understand that while we are participating in this drama, and even our line of gurus, Babaji and the great ones, it's really God's drama. And what is going on behind the scenes is a changing of the ages. And in this changing of the ages, the separation that existed during Kali Yuga, as Sri Yukteswar explained it, that separation is no longer appropriate during this age. And so there's coming together on many, many different levels. So Devi made a joke out of the iPhone, but the iPhone is one of the ways that God, and of course other phones also, but technology is one of the ways that God is bringing things together. When we get a call on a phone, we don't know before we pick it up, whether that call is from our neighbor who lives 10 feet beneath us downstairs, or whether it's from Diana in Delhi. And it hardly matters. We're going to talk with one of our friends who's on the other line of the phone. But of course, we begin to take this for granted, but it didn't exist when I was born, and it didn't exist 25 years ago, except through a lot of difficulty. And so God is in many, many different ways technologically, business associations, government interactions, financial ways. He's bringing together more of a one world and a sharing. But our important part in this, and this is very important because Yogananda and Babaji and our line of gurus did not incarnate as businessmen or as computer programmers or as technologists. They incarnated in order to help us understand the proper way of feeding our soul nature during this changing time of Dwapara Yuga. And so they brought the science of Kriya Yoga, but Kriya is, while it's a technique, what it really represents is they brought a path by which one could have direct perception of God, as opposed to just rituals to God or priests who spoke to God on your behalf. But the yogis have always brought this, but in past ages, they were mainly hidden. It was, you didn't contact them very much. But with the changeover of Kali Yuga to Dwapara Yuga, that's why when Lahiri Mahashaya went to Babaji in the Himalayas, received Samadhi, and wanted to stay with him, Babaji said, no, there's a purpose, that you didn't come to me until you had a family and had responsibilities, and you need to go back to your family, and you need to show the world that spirituality and being able to live successfully in the world don't have to remain separated. They can be carried on at the same time. And so our particular part in this God's drama of this age is to work on the spiritual side, the spiritual techniques. But because we also have bodies that we all have to take care of and worldly responsibilities, we also need to have a balance of being able to fulfill those responsibilities. And our path is one of balance between withdrawal into meditation and the practice of the techniques to have direct perception and union with God, and then bringing that centeredness into all of the aspects of daily living that we need to carry on. And so we're working together in order to accomplish that proper balance, which will lead to the best happiness possible during this age of Dwapara Yuga.
And since you mentioned, DT, in the question, Babaji to Sri Yukteswar, I wanted to read just a very brief passage from autobiography. This is in the chapter, An Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, after Master had this experience for the first time in this lifetime, certainly, of just this expansion and feeling himself one with all of creation. And then he came back into the body, and Master writes, my guru was standing motionless before me. I started to drop at his holy feet in gratitude for the experience in cosmic consciousness, which I had long passionately sought. He held me upright and spoke calmly, unpretentiously. You must not get overdrunk with ecstasy. Much work yet remains for you in the world. Come, let us sweep the balcony floor, then we shall walk by the Ganges. I fetched a broom. Master, I knew, was teaching me the secret of balanced living. The soul must stretch over the cosmogonic abysses while the body performs its daily duties. So that simple little passage reveals so much, because it's showing, first of all, the experience of cosmic consciousness, which is not expressed in any other tradition, any other teachings, but but India and some Eastern cultures. It's not expressed in Western religion. And so you have that. But then Sri Yukteswar says you have much work to do in the world. Just like Babaji told Lahiri, get a broom, sweep the porch, which was just symbolic of all the work he had to do in this world. And he said I knew my master was teaching me the art of balanced living. And I think that's the point. Why East and West need to come together? Because we need to imbue daily life with divine consciousness. That's the mission that Master came. And this line of gurus, look at the line of gurus, what they're all, you read about many other gurus or great saints in India, and it's a very, I don't know, even though they may be enlightened beings, it's not about a world mission. Here's Babaji and Christ that we read in the autobiography of a yogi, who are directing the evolution of humanity on this planet. And then Babaji's disciple Lahiri, who, as we referred to, had to, even after he was up in the Himalayas with Babaji, I think it was like for 25 years, he still continued to go to the office every day. I mean, just astonishing, balanced living. And then Sri Yukteswar comes, and his master describes him he said, very much of an Occidental in his outward habits, but inwardly in his spirit an Oriental. But he's the one, as we read in that other passage, that was meant to train somebody, master, to go to the West. And remember, when Sri Yukteswar meets Babaji at the Kumbh Mela, as this refers to, Babaji said, I want you to write a book comparing the Gita and the Bible. Again, always coming together, never just the Gita, but the Gita and the Bible, Babaji and Christ, working in an office of a great avatar. And then finally Master, who was that one that was trained to go to the West. And what did Sri Yukteswar say to him on the eve of his departure? He said, forget you were born a Hindu, but don't become an American. Live the best of the qualities of all your brothers. And that's what our mission is, to live the best of all cultures, bringing them together. And if you look at it, that's just that core mission of our line of gurus.
And it is such a wonderful timing to be talking about this, because it's Lahiri Mahashaya's, birth anniversary and Mahasamadhi, and it really seems he's, somehow infusing us with this awareness that you just spoke of. And we all feel it, that the way we have seen spirituality being transmitted in India before, that it was in a slightly different way in ashrams, in meditation rooms. But when this went to the West and flowed back into India, and now is flowing back into India, it's got this new avatar of dynamism. And as you say, balancing the life in the world and being rooted in spirit. And you both are, leading with that example. And there is much to learn, that decade after decade, you can be in the pursuit of spirit and yet be in the world and just be wonderful in everything that we have to do, that God has asked of us. So that's a beautiful reminder. We have some friends that, in Bengal, we read a lot, and so the context of quoting poets and writers and always comes in any conversation. We have a couple of friends who have quoted Kipling, and I'll just read the last two lines of his poem, that but there is neither east nor west, border, nor breed, nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth. So one of our friends has asked, what is that strength of the two strong men which banishes all divisions? I think you have already been touching upon this, but we want to hear more.
Well, I'll give first an intellectual answer, and then I'll give a more of a hard answer. Strength comes in part from achieving fulfillment in those things that you're chasing all of the time. And so when you think of a strong person, you think of somebody who has achieved what they have been looking for. And so in a certain sense, all people are driven to find happiness by achievement. And so a strong person is one who, largely speaking, has finished achieving and therefore is more at rest in themselves. And when two strong people come together, truly strong people, they don't feel they need to compete. They don't feel they need to show the differences. They don't feel one of them has to show that he's stronger than the other. They both accept that I'm strong enough. I'm secure in myself. I don't have to prove myself, and therefore their differences, without that kind of competition, which is such a element of human nature. Obviously, the more spiritually mature someone becomes, the less that becomes meaningful to them. And so strong people coming together are able to be settled in themselves and then see, oh, you being from the East and me being from the West, we have much to share, much to teach each other. There is a charming story of Master riding on a train, and he happened to be sitting in a compartment with an American who was quite a well-known actor. But this man was very kind of haughty and wouldn't look at Master, and just obviously was upset that he was put in this carriage with this person. And Master said, well, why do you look that way? Why do you have such a sour look on your face? And the man said, none of your business. And Master said, well, it certainly is my business. I have to look at you. I have to look at that sour face. So it's obviously my business. And then he went on, Master went on, he said something charming. He said, you know, everybody in this world is a little bit crazy. You and I are just crazy in different ways. Why don't we, while we're together, share our craziness with each other? And so they began talking. And indeed, this man ended up becoming a disciple of Master. But that's Master represents that strong man meeting, in this case, somebody who had a patina of not having strength, but soon, because he was charmed by Master, put down that guard. So Master didn't really need to prove himself to that person or anyone. And so he could laugh, he could enjoy the differences. We're both a little bit crazy. You're crazy in your way, I'm crazy in my way. Let's share our craziness together. And so that's the one part of the strength. The other part of a strength is that when a person has achieved real balance within themselves, there is a balance between their heart energy and their mind energy. And the heart can more easily recognize friendship and appreciate than the mind can. The mind sees superficial differences. The heart often is just attracted to a person immediately upon meeting.
Well, I'm going to pick it up from a different string. That's a very, very famous poem that you quoted, DT, by Kipling. But of course, Kipling was a child of, British colonialism, and his poem, and to a certain extent, reflects that. But I'll share another story that perhaps is a different way of answering this. This was a short story that I read some years ago, written by another British author, E.M. Forster, who wrote Passage to India. It's a very beautiful novel. And in this short story, it starts off where these two men have both left their bodies. One is a Muslim, one is a Christian, and their souls start ascending to God. And at first, they see that they're dressed slightly differently, and their languages are slightly different, and they keep a little distance from each other. But then as their souls begin moving closer to the light and the differences begin to fall away, they began sharing, what was your life like? What was your life like? And they both realized that the other person was a very good person, very noble person. And they grow closer and closer to the light. And they're each thinking, too bad he's a Christian. He can't enter the kingdom of heaven. Too bad he's a Muslim. He can't enter the kingdom of heaven as their religion taught. But as they grow closer and closer to the light, and they're just about to merge into the light, each simultaneously thinks, Lord, if only one of us can enter, let it be him. And then they both enter into the light and merge and become one. So what's the point of that story? The more we grow spiritually, the less we're aware of the differences. And that's why it's so easy for all of us to be together. We're not hung up about cultural or language differences or background, how we were raised, or any of those things. But as we grow spiritually, those differences just aren't that important. And as we grow spiritually, we see, well, we're all really the same. And there's that beautiful song, and I'll just close with this, by Swamiji, Brothers. And the last verse is, the words and customs vary like waves upon the sea. One life beneath the surface binds everyone to me. Who knows himself knows all men as brothers. And that's the point, who knows himself. When you know yourself, you can't see any differences between anybody. We're all one. And that's how Master looked at us. That's how Swami looked at us. And we were all just his divine children. So it's not insurmountable by any means, but who knows himself. And that's what we all have to try to achieve, self-realization.
Thank you so much. I just want to say at this point that, when you speak like this to all of us, we really feel the soul of India in your hearts. We feel the spirituality of India in your hearts, and more than we feel sometimes with many Indians, as we said in the beginning of this conversation, it's the way of the heart, it's the way of the soul, and it's the way of the Guru, and it's very uplifting. Thank you for just explaining such things in such a simple way. I don't feel like going back to this question because it seems like it's become such a fluid conversation now, but I will touch upon a few more. One of our Guru Bhai is making reference to the same poem by Kipling. She asks, how do you look at this East-West union in the light of, one, the environmental problems faced by the world today in the aftermath of the pandemic? And number two, how can yoga bring about peace and harmony in the world torn by ethnic and religious conflicts? Again, I think we are touching upon the same point that you are elaborating right from the beginning. So if there is anything that you may want to add, and then we will go to a slightly different type of question after this.
Well, I'll add this, that whether it's government officials or business people or national economies, the more self-protective of a part of the whole a group is, the less solution is possible. You find that in India, we find it in America, that sometimes a very common sense solution is easily available, but there are two sides or multiple sides, and they won't give up their own personal slight advantage, even though it would benefit others. I know when we are in Delhi, for instance, there comes a lot of smoke right at the time of Diwali. That's coming from the burning of rice fields and so on. Well, there could be easy solutions, except that it's two different states, and therefore they're fighting and they won't come to a solution. Same with water shortages. Water could be moved around much more efficiently, but as long as people are fighting, then you get beyond that to the world and pollution. It's kind of like, well, my economy of my country is more important than the health of the world, and therefore we won't look for solutions. But the more we maintain separate interests, the less we can find solutions. And so again, the pandemic, to a certain extent, because it doesn't obey any borders, is forcing us to find worldwide solutions to things. The climate doesn't obey national borders, and so it's going to force us to find solutions. So honestly, in many ways, governments and special interests stand in the way of solution orientation. And all of us, maybe we can use this period to say, well, let's go beyond those sectarian differences and find solutions that benefit everyone and also benefit future generations that are not yet able to speak for themselves.
And, also remember that this world really is a dream. It's God's dream. And humanity affects it or has an influence according to the collective consciousness. So Swami often quoted, and this was a true study that was done, a group of people who practiced transcendental meditation, TM, decided they were going to see, this was maybe 20 years ago, they were going to see what the impact a group of people meditating had on the world around them. So a large number of them moved to a state in America, Rhode Island, which has a very small population, very small state. And they were all meditating, practicing their sadhana. They weren't trying to teach other people, but just they were focused. And within not very long, people began noticing the climate improved, the crime rate went down, the visits to the emergency room in the hospital lessened a great deal. There may have been other positive benefits. Those are the ones that come to mind. But this was from a large percentage of the population meditating.
I think it was 1%,
Yeah.
but that's a relatively large percent in a small area.
Yeah. But all that to say, and now we're looking at the opposite. Now we're looking at, global climate crises, pandemic. Well, what's causing this? Yes, the virus, and yes, pollution, all that, but that's an expression of man's negative consciousness. And so, yes, we need to do practical things. We can't just meditate. We have to do practical things. And there are those things available to us that can be done. But nevertheless, I think for us who are disciples of Master to find this balanced life where we meditate, where we pray for the world, where we send out the light of our masters, and then do whatever practical things we can. At Ananda Village, for example, Jyotish and I have been on a real campaign to get everybody vaccinated. And at the same time, on a real campaign to make sure, because we're more isolated now, that everyone's spiritual life is strong. Both of those things are necessary. And so I think it's important to remember that the effect of human consciousness on the world around us is very, very important. And that's something that we can help affect for the better. Maybe we can't influence big governments, but we can put out light into the world, and that ultimately affects everyone.
There's a practice that we've been doing for the last couple of weeks that I can suggest for as many of you as would like to do it. Master had something that he called a peace and harmony prayer. And this is meant primarily if there's a disharmony between you and another person. But we were using it because there are, tensions around vaccinations and illnesses and so on. We were using it to bring harmony among our group. And so we were repeating 10 times.
As Master taught.
Lord, fill our community with peace and harmony, peace and harmony. And we repeated that 10 times. Then repeat 3 times, Lord, fill me with peace and harmony, peace and harmony. And so we immediately started seeing the effect of that on certain tensions, just little ones, nothing serious, but little ones, easing. And so that's something that all of us can do today. You can do it in your group gatherings. End with a peace and harmony prayer for where you see disharmony, bring harmony. Where you see darkness, bring light. Where you see separation, bring unity. Where you see judgment, bring acceptance. Always fight against a negative quality with the opposite positive quality.
And I'll say one more thing. It's so hard to accept the fact that we have any importance in the greater scheme of things. We feel like, well, I'm struggling to meditate. I'm struggling to make a living, support my family, take care of my responsibilities. But I really want to say to each one of you, in Master's eyes, in Babaji's eyes, you are very, very important, because you are their hands and feet in this world right now. And so times will change, times will get better. But as long as the world for this period is being challenged, really try to hold your mind and your heart really linked with Master and Babaji as strongly as you can. And really try to say, I will share their light. I will share their love in as many ways as I can. And it's a gift we're all being given right now to be their instruments. And don't just think it's the acharyas or the Kriyacharyas. No, it's the disciples. It's the humble disciples. It's your job. And I hope together we can help bring Master's light and Babaji's light into the world much more. And the love of DT sent us these beautiful photos of Anandamoy Ma, and who had her, I believe you said your aunt and your grandmother were direct disciples. And so there were pictures of her family with Ma. Jyotish got to meet Ma when he went to India and received her darshan and her blessing. And so, again, talking about the difference of East and West, the reverence for Divine Mother in India, that the feminine aspect of God, the caring, compassionate, that's again your gift to the world now. And my goodness, does it need it?
You know, you embody also this energy of Divine Mother, Deviji and Jyotishji. I mean, Durga Puja is coming in Kolkata. We have this big festival in October where we sort of celebrate Divine Mother's presence, and she is very powerfully present in Bengal. Everyone relates to her as your own mother. And in a way, since the last few days, while we were trying to make some notes, I see so many of disciples and the readers of your blogs referring to you both as our spiritual parents, as the spiritual father and the spiritual mother. So there is this, guardianship. There is this parenthood in that way. The mother's energy flowing in this, showing us the spiritual way forward. And in the pandemic, this is what I had written to you as well, that we had, thought that you will both come to Kolkata and we'll have the satsang with you in maybe the Tulsi Bo shrine. But the pandemic happened and the online gathering started. And now today you have in a way come to Kolkata, but we have such a wider scope of audience being able to listen to you and being able to receive this light. So Divine Mother's will is just to empower this, in a way she's put us within the confines of four walls, but in a way she's broken down many walls and expanded this kind of empowerment. So,
I'm gonna ask a question.
Well, I just want to say, and then you ask a question. Calcutta is very dear to our hearts. One of the last place we visited with Swamiji in India was Calcutta. We went there very near the end of his incarnation, and we visited Master's home and spent some time there and visit.
Swami couldn't even walk up the steps to the attic. We had to carry him up in a chair to the attic.
But it was, it was a very dear, very sweet visit. So Calcutta is very powerfully implanted in our hearts.
So I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
What I love when you talk about your time with Ma. I wasn't there when we were not married at the time. And what can you recall of that visit that is pertinent to what we're talking about?
Well, many things. First of all, even though the scene around Ma was quite Indian, one might say, Ma herself you couldn't put her in any category at all. She was, when we were with her over a period of several days, the first night when we saw her and had darshan, she was barely in the body. She was just looking up and people were coming up and pronaming. She was not really on this plane at all. She was somewhere in the astral world, I think. And then it was a very abstract time period. 2 days later, she was like a little girl. We were with Swamiji. we had a little satsang, and she was sitting on a dais, and she was laughing and clapping her hands, and someone brought out a marigold garland for her and put it around her neck. Swamiji was sitting maybe 10 feet, 12 feet away. We were in the first row, but she was up on a platform a little bit. At any rate, she took this garland off of her neck and threw it, and it went right around Swami's neck. And she laughed and laughed, and then they brought out little handkerchiefs with some rock candy, and she threw those to each of us. And as we caught them, she was like a little girl at that time. So in one time she was like cosmic, and the other time she was your sister. And she was neither east nor west. She was neither male nor female. She wasn't old or young. She was just God incarnate. And it was but such love and compassion that flowed from her. Even when she was being abstract, you felt that beautiful, powerful aura of love and embracing everyone and everything.
And then tell the story about when Swami told you to go ahead and he was waiting.
Oh, Swami wanted to say goodbye
alone
to her. We were a small group, 3 of us plus Swami, and we had a train ticket back to Delhi. And so he told us, you go ahead, collect the bags, go to the train, get my bag also, and wait for me on the train, and then I'll come and join you there because I want to say goodbye to Ma. And so we were on the train, and the time for departure was getting closer and closer. Finally, the train whistle blew, and it was supposed to depart, and Swami wasn't there. And then the train didn't depart, and it was maybe 5 minutes late, and we were very nervous. And then finally we saw Swami running up to the platform. This was when he was younger. It was in 1974. He was running up to the platform, and we got to the door and waved, and he saw us, and he ran, and the train started moving before he could get on, but he jumped on. And so I'm sure that Ma just held the train for him. He related then to us that the magnetism and love between them was so strong that he physically could not leave her presence. And she realized his dilemma, and she got up and left. And as soon as she went inside and closed the door, then he got up and ran for the cab to get to the train. And I'm sure that she held the train for him so that he could get on. But it's these great saints, they're such a blessing to the world.
And so many of them choose to become from Bengal, Calcutta. I think, and Swami loved, you played that chant at the very beginning of him chanting. He loved the Bengali language. He said it was the sweetest of all languages because it just was so heartfelt, so soft. And he said he felt more like a Bengali than any other nationality or any other regional identification. So but again, was Ma from Bengal, was Master? Not really, they belong to all people.
Swami said to Ma, "Oh, Ma, why can't you come and visit America?" And she said, "I'm already there." So she saw herself everywhere, and if people wanted to come and visit her body, that was nice, but she wasn't confined by that identification. She was East and West, as are all the great masters.
So powerful to even listen to these stories. We feel we are there with you when you experience this. We can go back in time with you. be in her presence. I must add that it seems that these, the saints of Bengal, they have a slightly naughty sense of humor and this drama going on with stopping trains. And, it's like a movie script sometimes. And you know it from the autobiography of a yogi, this is full of magic and drama. I think that's also part of the Bengal flavor.
It's so true. We had a very, very dear friend, a Western woman who was dear friends with Swami when he was a monk at SRF. And then someone showed her, she was a Western woman, a picture of Ananda Ma, and she just knew that that was her guru, even though she had started with Master. She came to India, spent a great deal of time here in Ma's presence, and but would go back and forth. But she had the most impish, our friend Ma gave her the name Hari Priya, and but she had the most impish sense of humor, and Ma told her always to be doing japa. So she had a little japa bag with a mala in it. She was always doing her mantra. But one time here at Ananda Village, we were having an Indian banquet. She was very dear. She and Swami were like brother and sister. And she was sitting across the table from Swami at this Indian banquet. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the banquet, Swami kind of shivered and kind of jumped up in his chair. We didn't know what was going on. And then we all kept on eating. And once again, he shivered and he jumped up in his chair. And then Hari Priya, our friend, was just burst out laughing. And in her little japa bag, she had a water gun. And she was shooting Swami under the table. And nobody knew what was going on. Anyway, impish sense of humor, yes. Indeed.
Deviji, Jyotishji, you're planting ideas in our hearts and minds when you come to Kolkata. You never know what to expect from the Bengali disciples now.
Well, it's all right if you're going to do that, but first you have to get a japa bag. Then you have to start doing japa and do japa for about 10 years. And then you have earned the right to carry a water pistol in your japa bag. So that's the teaching. That's.
And I know it's time for us to go, but when we start talking about Ma, Master is the guru, no question. He's given us our life in God, but Ma is like the mother, just so tender and so loving. And so when our friend Hari Priya first went to India, this was in the early 1960s, when she was a little girl, her given name was Nancy, and she loved to dress up in her mother's fancy clothes. And so her mother called her Nancy Fancy. And so here Hari Priya goes to this ashram, first time in India, all by herself, totally different culture. Ananda Ma looks at her, claps her hands and says, Nancy Fancy, Nancy Fancy, you have come, in English. She didn't speak English, but anyway, just to show it's all connected.
It's quite magical how time flew by. I mean, we just feel we don't want to, seem to have this magnetism that we don't want to end this session.
Ask us one more question, Deepi, ask us one more question.
So this question.
And anyone who has to go, please feel free.
Yeah.
So, but we'll answer one more question and that's it.
So, this question is to do with Swamiji, and we feel that energy in that photograph of Swamiji with Ananda Ma, both of them meditating and both of them united in that meditation, like a mother and child. And we see Swamiji's videos on YouTube when he was in Calcutta, and he says, my spiritual father is Bengali, so I am a Bengali in that way. And he opens the satsang with the Shama Shongit, which is a devotional chant to Divine Mother, which we in fact played today. And he embodies this devotion. This is very much we feel in the saints of Bengal of the past, So Swamiji absolutely, when he was in that bhav, that you don't really feel where this, where Swamiji is from in terms of being from America or India. So many of us here haven't met Swami Kriyananda ji when he was here, but we meet him through you. We meet him through his music, through his vibrations. So just want to this last question. Just give us some insights into some guidance into how we can stay connected to Swamiji more and more, connect to him more and more, though we have never met him and spoken to him directly.
Well, first off, let me say that for many people, it's easier to connect with Swamiji now that he's out of the body than it was before, because if he was in America, people would think, well, I can't connect with him because he's in America. If he was in India, people that weren't there would think I can't connect because he's in India. Or in other words, he was localized in people's minds when he was in that body. But now that he's out, that delusion is not there. So we can't connect with him physically. We have to connect vibrationally. And that can be done intellectually. There are hundreds of lectures of his that are available on YouTube or on, we have something called Treasures.
They've started it in India.
Yeah, the Treasures initiative. There's Radio Ananda that's got music playing all of the time. So intellectually, his lectures and his books, vibrationally, his music and his chanting, and spiritually, just try to meditate and to try to look into his eyes or to draw wisdom or help from him. The more we reach out in our minds and in our hearts to Master or to Swamiji or to any great saint, they respond. Coming back to Ananda Ma, someone asked, do you hear our prayers when we pray to you? And she described it beautifully. She said, it's like I see a crowd of people, and if someone prays to me, it's like I see a beam of light shine up from that person to me, and I immediately. So when we connect with Swamiji or Master, we send a beam of our consciousness, and that draws their consciousness to us. So there are many ways, but to connect. It really starts with our initiating some desire to connect, and then we can do it intellectually or vibrationally or musically or however we choose.
Yeah, I would just add a little story from Swami's life. We weren't there at the time, but people who were there told us he was recording an album of chanting. And it was, he had a beautiful voice. He was very musical. It was going along nicely. And at a certain point, he stopped and he said, this is how I chant in public. But he said, it's too hard for me to chant publicly the way I really feel towards God. It's hard for me to be that open. And he said, but this is how I chant. And then he did some Indian chant, bhajans, and they said it was so heartfelt and very different from the way he usually chanted. And he said, it's very, and I thought about that a lot. And I thought, he had to keep hidden. He had so much to do to fulfill the mission Master gave him. He had to keep hidden for most of the time, his real heartfelt connection with God. And so what I would say was, listen to his Indian bhajans. Many of them are recorded, and you hear a different quality than in the English chants. And then also to the more you yourself open your heart in devotion to God and Divine Mother, to Guru, the more you will feel who Swami was. Because, you know, you can be in awe of him. Oh, he was a composer and an author and a lecturer and all these things, spoke all these languages, but none of that was important to him. You know, he said, at the end of my life, I want people just to say about me, he was a good disciple. So the more we can be good disciples of Guruji, again, we'll be united with our divine brother, our divine guide, our blessed friend, Swami Kriyananda. And he's very present for everyone. But it's a matter of us finding the way to go deeper into our love for God.
Our hearts are filled with gratitude. I don't want to conclude this session, but probably need to. I just want to share with everyone here that Jyotish and Devi write wonderful blogs every week, and maybe Alok will post the links to their contributions in the chat. You can save them. It's been 8 years since they've been writing, and every week there's a beautiful new discussion, and 4 books have been published every 2 years on these blogs that we can read. And we are full of love and gratitude, Jyotish and Devi. It's a blessing of Divine Mother that we receive her light through you and through all our mentors and guides in Ananda. We receive Swamiji through all of you. And we await your presence in Kolkata when things normalize with all of you. And just thank you for filling us with this beauty of, Divine Mother and Ananda Moima's energy and love of spirit.
God bless you. And
thank you. Thank you. Pranams.
We hope to be with you in person soon. Certainly, we hope next year at this time we'll be in India.
Yeah. And it's just, thank you for being so gracious and welcoming us. And I hope, please believe us sincerely. It's a great blessing for us to share with all of you, because it just awakens that beautiful part of Indian devotion, which is our heart.
The Master is known as Premavatar, and we feel this love in your presence. Thank you, Adharmacharyas. Thank you ever so much for this blessing.
God bless you.
Have a beautiful day, everyone. And
Jai Guru. Thank you so much.